There's something that's been on my mind over the past couple weeks, and I keep thinking, I'm going to make a video about this. And it's kind of related to some videos I made really early in my channel. I'm talking 9 years ago or so. My son Dylan and a bunch of his friends were hanging out. This is probably 2 weeks ago or so. He had 3 of his friends. They're all 11th graders, and they were talking about college, and they were getting ready to take the SATs. And I'm sitting there eating dinner with them, and they said, do you remember what you got in the SATs? And I said, yeah, I got like 880. And they said, what? That's it? And I said, yeah, I was a bad student. But I remembered that I had a gig the night before, and I was out till 3 a.m. or so, because I remember very specifically going into the SATs and being literally falling asleep when I was taking them. But as I've said on this channel before, I was a bad student in high school. As a matter of fact, my GPA was about 1.8. I mean, really bad. My senior year of high school, everybody starts talking about what they're going to do the next year. They're going to go to college, they're going to go to trade school, whatever it was. This is back in 1979, in the fall of 79. I'm graduated in spring of 80. So people are asking me, what are you going to do? At the beginning of the year, you go to your guidance counselor and you talk to them. And my guidance counselor, Mr. Kroll, said, here's your SATs. It's pretty bad. Your GPA, nope, there's no way with a 1.8 that you're going to be able to get into any colleges. I was completely deflated. So I basically just was sleepwalking through that first half of my senior year. Everybody's making plans. People are getting into colleges. They're all talking about that. What are you going to do, Rick? Oh, I don't really know. My parents never asked me anything. That comes around to January. And some people that were in the music program were saying, oh, we're going to go audition. Some people were going to go audition at Fredonia State. Some people were going to go audition at Potsdam. These are SUNY schools in New York State. And some people at Ithaca College, Oberlin, different universities, music schools, things like that, were going to audition. So a couple people that were auditioning at Fredonia and Ithaca had the brochures. So I got the brochures from them, and I look up, okay, here's the dates that they're going to do auditions, and here are the requirements. Now, I was playing bass in the orchestra and everything, but I wanted to audition on guitar. So I was like, okay, I'm going to audition for guitar. So I go to my guitar teacher at the local music store, Glenn, and I was like, hey, can you teach me these classical guitar pieces? Now, we didn't really read the things carefully because it said you need to learn a piece from 3 different style periods. 3 different style periods would be like Baroque, Classical, Renaissance, or Baroque, Classical, Romantic, or Romantic, Classical, 20th century, whatever. 3 different style periods. And then you had to learn these things called the Segovia scales. It's Andre Segovia, one of the greatest classical guitarist of all time. He had a way to play major and minor scales, a certain finger patterns up and down the neck, 3-octave major minor scales. My teacher Glenn didn't know this stuff. He didn't know what the Segovia scales were. So he went in, though, and grabbed a Mel Bay book that had some Bach pieces in it. Prelude in D minor. There was a fugue that was in A minor. I think it was originally in G minor and stuff. So Glenn starts teaching me these things. And I got this Guild classical guitar, which I still have. I bought it from him. I'm playing it on this leg and everything. He didn't really know how to teach classical guitar, but I'm learning the notes and stuff. And so I learned 3 pieces. One of them, actually, I learned off a record, a Scarlatti piece. And I go in, I do my auditions. And the first one was at Fredonia State. The next one was a week later at Ithaca College. And if you go back, there's a video called Fortunes of Hard Work. If you want to see one of my early videos that's color graded really badly and looks really green, you can go and watch that. And that tells you the story of my disastrous auditions. But needless to say, I didn't get into either school for music. I got rejected from both of them. I got the letters on the same day. I hid them from my family, didn't show them to my parents, but I had a letter from the track coach at Fredonia State, which was the #1 Division III school in the country, and it said, if you come in here, run on the track team, you can get in, but you have to be a different major. I picked history. I was like, I want to just get in the music program. I went to the guitar teacher, Joanne Castellano. She was like, no, I don't have time for you to teach you. So then I'm like, what am I going to do? I can't get into Fredonia. So I want to re-audition at Ithaca College. But now I know that there are requirements. And I talked to this kid in my dorm who I mentioned this story before, Phil Sasso. And Phil taught me 5 different pieces. He was an amazing classical guitarist. And he taught me the Segovia scales. And 5 weeks into my first semester, I went back to Ithaca College to audition in front of Steve Brown, who rejected me 6 months before and didn't remember me, re-auditioned, and I got in. So I transferred after my first semester. So January of 1981, I went to Ithaca College as a guitar major. And on the first day, I went to the bass teacher, Henry Newbert, who just passed away 2 weeks ago, who was a great guy, and he ran the music ed program. And I was like, I played bass in my high school orchestra. I was first chair, and I'd like to play bass in the orchestra. He's like, well, play me something. So I pick up his bass, I play something. He's like, why aren't you a bass major? I was like, I don't know. Could I be? He goes, yes, you should do that. You should definitely get a music ed degree. That's way better than getting a jazz studies degree. So I was like, okay. So I went and I told Steve that I was going to do music ed and be a bass major. And Steve was like, okay. So I took guitar lessons, jazz guitar lessons from Steve, but I was a bass major. I finished my degree at Ithaca. I go to New England Conservatory. I get my master's degree in jazz guitar. So my undergrad in bass, master's in jazz guitar. And in the last semester, I was getting my degree, finishing my degree at New England. I was on a break. They needed a substitute teacher at Fairport High School to teach orchestra. So I went in and subbed and conducted the orchestra. Well, who do I run into there in the hallway during the day? I run into Mr. Kroll, the guidance counselor. He's like, what are you doing here, Mr. Beato? He remembered me. My brother John had just graduated the year before. I was like, I'm actually substitute teaching the orchestra this week. And he said, really? I said, yeah, I'm actually finishing my master's degree. Do you remember when you told me I'd never get into college because of my SATs or my GPA? Well, not only did I get into my undergrad, but I'm finishing my master's degree right now. And he said, good for you, and smiled. He was psyched. I mean, to him, he's just looking at these things. He knows. He's like, well, the chances of me getting in are basically zero. But they weren't zero. The chances of getting in were 100% because I did get in. And I didn't let them define me. I didn't let him define me. And it all comes back to what my mom used to say every time I got a bad grade starting when I was in second grade. You start seeing the things. Rick does not work up to ability, all this kind of stuff. I really had some type of ADD or ADHD. I'm sure of it because I could never focus on things, as you can probably tell by the way I make my videos. And my mom was like, the teachers don't know how to teach you. You're smarter than they are. And every time I got a bad report card, she would say that. And I believed it. At least I wanted to believe it. And looking back at it now, Mom, you were right. My mom's been gone now for about 9 years. And my mom was so important to me. I remember she used to say to me, I never really liked school either. I never did well in school. And I still think about that all the time. So when I'm talking to Dylan and his friends, I told them this story and they were laughing at it, right? Because I was such a bad student, but it didn't matter. All that matters is that you're determined to do something. And if you really want something bad enough, you can do it. You just got to work hard. Love to know your thoughts. Leave a comment. Thanks for watching.